The morning air was heavy with rain that hadn't yet fallen. It clung to black umbrellas, to polished marble steps, to the hush that gathers when wealth is dressed in grief. A long line of cars curved along the cemetery road, their engines idling softly like held breaths. Roses too many to count released a sweet, almost suffocating perfume as pallbearers adjusted their grip on the casket. Just as the priest lifted his hands to speak, a sharp, unfamiliar sound cut through the silence. Metal scraping stone. A wheeled cart rattling closer. Heads turned. Disapproval flickered. A few murmurs rose. At the edge of the crowd stood a garbage collector, his vest faded, boots wet with morning dew. His cart was dented and loud, smelling faintly of rust and yesterday's refuse. His hair was streaked with gray, face lined by sun and years of early mornings. He wasn't meant to be there. Everyone could see that. "She's not dead," he said. The words fell awkwardly into the space between hymns and prayers. A ripple of shock passed through the mourners. Security stepped forward, already annoyed. The billionaire widower looked up slowly. Jonathan Hale's face was pale, hollowed by weeks of private grief. His black suit hung loose on a body that had forgotten hunger. His wife's photograph rested beside the casket, soft smile, familiar eyes. He had memorized every curve of her face, every line. He had kissed her cold forehead only yesterday. "What did you say?" Jonathan asked, his voice barely carrying. The garbage collector swallowed. His hands trembled, gripping the handle of his cart like it was the only thing keeping him upright. "I said, she's not dead," he repeated, quieter now. "Please. You have to listen." Security moved closer, but Jonathan raised a hand. Something in the man's eyes, fear, certainty, desperation, stopped him. The collector stepped forward, shoes sinking slightly into damp grass. "My name is Elias," he said. "I work the night routes near your estate." Murmurs again. Jonathan's jaw tightened. He remembered the hum of trucks beyond the gates, sounds he had never truly heard. "2 nights ago," Elias continued, "I found her." The wind stirred the leaves overhead. The priest lowered his book. "She was lying near the service road. No shoes. Breath so shallow I thought it was nothing. But I checked. I always check." His voice cracked. Her pulse was there. Weak. She was cold, but alive. Jonathan felt the ground tilt beneath him. "They said she collapsed alone," Jonathan whispered. "They said it was instant." Elias shook his head. "She kept trying to speak. Couldn't he? I wrapped her in my jacket. Called for help, but no one came fast enough. They told me later she was already listed as deceased by the time the ambulance arrived." A quiet horror settled over the crowd. Jonathan's heart hammered painfully. "Where is she?" he asked. Elias's eyes shone. "Hospital. County ward. They didn't know who she was. No ring. No ID. I stayed until morning." Jonathan ran. The cemetery faded behind him, the flowers, the wealth, the grave waiting patiently. Tires screamed as his car tore down the road. Rain finally fell, blurring the world into streaks of gray. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and old coffee. Machines hummed softly. In a small room with chipped paint and thin curtains, Jonathan saw her. Alive. Pale. Bruised. Breathing. A sound left him that was more sob than breath. He took her hand, warm, undeniably warm, and pressed his face against it, shaking. Days later, the city learned the truth. A misfiled report. A rushed conclusion. A woman nearly buried alive. But Jonathan never forgot the man in the faded vest. At dawn 1 week later, a garbage truck idled outside the Hale estate. Elias stood stiffly at the gate, unsure why he'd been called. Jonathan opened the door himself. He didn't speak at first. He simply embraced the man who had listened when the world hadn't. Some lives are saved by power. Some by money. And some quietly by people who notice what others overlook. Elias returned to his route the next morning, cart rattling as always. But the city felt different now. Lighter. Because kindness, once seen, has a way of changing everything. If this story touched your heart and moved you in any way, please like the video, comment, share it with someone who need a little hope today, and make sure you subscribe to Humanity Diaries. Your support help us continue emotional and meaningful stories to the world. Please comment below which part of story touched you the most.